Welcome to the Daily Blade. The Word of God is described as the sword of the Spirit, the primary spiritual weapon in the Christian's armor against the forces of evil. Your hosts are Joby Martin and Kyle Thompson, and they stand ready to equip men for the fight. Let's sharpen up.
Welcome to a new week of the Daily Blade. Because of the work that I do with my main show and ministry, Undaunted Life, I actually have gotten some pretty cool opportunities to spend some time with some incredible people. So some of my favorite people that I've had the chance to get to know have been the Robertson family out of West Monroe, Louisiana. So I had the distinct honor of being a friend of the great patriarch Phil Robertson in the last few years of his life before God called him home to glory. And it's also been great to spend time with the rest of the Robertson clan, especially Phil's oldest son, Al, and his wife, Lisa. So Al and Lisa have an incredible marriage story of faith and resilience. So one of their main ministries as a family is helping married couples traverse the sometimes choppy waters of holy matrimony. And I actually got to see this firsthand earlier this year when my wife and I got to attend a marriage conference that Al and Lisa led in Texas. And one of their sessions was especially impactful as they discussed love and respect inside of marriage. Now, most of you that are familiar with marriage stuff are likely familiar with that language. So the man wants respect and the woman wants love, typically. And also typically, I've seen content like this presented, and it's telling wives how to respect their husbands and husbands how to love their wives. And I love all that content. I think it's great. But Al and Lisa actually took a different approach. Al talked about how they can be respectable as men, while Lisa spoke to the women about how they can be lovable. So Lisa used the famous Proverbs 31 verses to help the ladies out, but Al took a very different route with an Old Testament book and chapter that I was not expecting him to use, and that was Job 31. So the book of Job is one of the wisdom books in the Old Testament, and it focuses on a righteous man named Job and the insane trials that he faces as God allows Satan to test Job's faith. So Job 31 is actually the last chapter of Job's defense before God and his buddies. So it's his final appeal, as the ESV calls it. So Job is powerfully declaring his integrity and righteousness on the heels of his catastrophic suffering. So essentially, Job is opening himself up to judgment if he is found guilty of any of the things that he lists. So Al Robertson pulled many of these things out during his presentation, and we're going to be looking at them in depth this week. So first, let's look at Job 31, verses 5 and 6. If I have walked with falsehood, and my foot has hastened to deceit, let me be weighed in a just balance, and let God know my integrity. So how is a man respectable? He walks in honesty. So as men, we have many opportunities in life to not walk in honesty, okay? We can lie during a job interview. We can cheat on our taxes. We can kick the ball back into the green from the rough. We can gaslight our wives. We can purposefully embellish the danger we experience during a hunt, so on and so forth. There's a lot of opportunities. But here's the thing about honesty. Honesty begins with a heart that fears God. Proverbs 9:10 says this, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is insight." You see, Job's integrity comes from a right ordering inside of his life as it pertains to God. So more plainly, he reveres and fears God, and when we look at God the same way that Job does, we will walk in honesty too. We won't be tempted to lie, cheat, or steal in order to gain something perishable. And then in Proverbs 19:1, it says this, "Better is a poor person who walks in his integrity than one who is crooked in speech and is a fool." And here's another thing about honesty. When you walk in honesty, it becomes a holistic way of living for you. Your life becomes marked by your incessant desire to be truthful, even if it is temporarily painful, which it can be for a lot of us. So guys, most of us, when we've gotten in trouble in our lives, it was because we looked at honesty like it was an option, like it was some sort of a, kind of an add-on to our lives. But a life of integrity is a life lived on the path of integrity. If you deny walking with falsehood, that displays your life is marked by sincerity and truth. Proverbs 10:9 says this, "Whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but he who makes his way crooked will be found out." So men, if you want to be respectable, especially as it pertains to your wife, you need to walk in honesty. Crush your Monday.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Before you go, if you want to help equip other men for the fight, share this podcast around and leave us a 5-star rating and review. Stay sharp.